travel internationally, the arapaima must be the prize species that most anglers aspire to.
Ghostly, shimmering, powerful. The tarpon. Among the world's mammoth monster fish, these ocean hunters have a killer asset: night vision.
Big and silvery. There's just really nothing like it. Big silver scales on the side of the animal with a huge eye up in the head.
Called the Silver King, this shiny Atlantic beast can reach almost 2.5 meters long and weigh over 150 kilos. Tarpon are so well adapted to grow and thrive, they remain relatively unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs.
The fossil record of tarpons goes back a long way. We think we have fossils of tarpons that are 100 million years old.
For millennia, tarpon growth has come down to survival of the fittest. Females spawn millions of eggs each year. Only a fraction make it to adulthood. But those super specimens that do survive are built to last. Living for 50 years or more. Feeding and growing to mammoth proportions with few natural enemies.
It's always body size as your ticket to protection. Being big allows them to escape the threats of predators, and it lets them move into the open water where they can hunt for bigger prey.
One boost to their big size, the tarpon is a night stalker, born with nature's answer to infrared technology. This unusual ability is thanks to enormous eyes that work like highly sensitive light absorbers. Giant lenses capture every luminescent particle in the water, maximizing reflections, isolating moving shapes, helping tarpon home in on prey. In deep waters, it's a huge seeing and stalking advantage, allowing tarpon to snag fish other predators miss, ambushing a meal with ease. To fishermen, tarpon are extraordinary prize fighters, one of the ocean's toughest opponents.
Sweet, yeah, look at that. Look at that.
It carries a worldwide reputation of the king of all sport fish. They're so incredible, fighting fish.
August 9th, 1992, the Gulf of Mexico near Galveston, Texas. Teenage angler Robert Lord Jr. is out with an afternoon fishing expedition. Their guide, Captain Mike Williams, one of the Gulf's most experienced tarpon fishermen.
He knows the fish really well. He knows their patterns. He's a tarpon genius.
The boat drifts offshore for 2 hours under the blistering Texas sun. Waiting for a bite, Robert works to remove a messy tangle from a fishing reel. Suddenly, a shimmering underwater surge shoots past the boat. It's huge.
I thought this was, Jaws or something. In my 14-year-old brain, I was thinking, okay, this was a gigantic white flash. It seemed like it was as big as the boat. It must be a great white shark.
I tell you, that's a big fish right there.
Feeling a tug, Robert races to untangle the line.
Got my fingers all intertwined in the fishing line, and if it starts pulling line off, it could have ripped off a finger.
But before he gets far, the fish bites hard into the hook and tears off.
Oh man, I got one, I got one, I got one!
Just in time, Robert manages to free his hand. The line spools out quickly and cleanly.
Get that rod down, get that rod down, let him go, let him go.
But as the fish bucks and pulls, the young angler braces for the fight of his life.
I was just, having a huge adrenaline rush, and my heart was just thumping.
Watch that line, make sure you reel that line up even.
Trying to shake the hook, the tarpon leaps high above the water.
There he is. Woo! Big boy! Big boy, see how thick that fish is?
Airborne, it's even bigger than anyone imagined.
That's the biggest fish I've seen all year right there, buddy.
Everyone's just shocked because even at this long distance, you can tell it's just a, once in a lifetime thing to see something like this.
The tarpon seems to get stronger with each leap. The battle's on.
Don't stop him, let him go, let him go. Okay, Robert, it's coming up. It's coming up, coming up. It's big, big, big.
I was just super nervous that I was gonna lose it.
Yeah, he's had his fish on 1 hour.
Every time it jumps out of the water and shakes its head, you think it's gonna spit the hook out.
After a muscle-burning 90 minutes, the fish shows no signs of giving up.
Keep that rod down.
The tug-of-war pushes Robert to the edge of his stamina and strength.
My biceps felt like they were completely on fire. Every time you think you've got it pretty close to the boat, it's just gonna take off again and rip off more line. You're getting more and more tired, and it just doesn't seem like the fish is.
Oh, God. My knees. Just hang on what you got.
Robert refuses to give in to dangerous fatigue. He knows if he relaxes for a moment, he could end up in the water.
I was probably 145 pounds, so, you know, if I had, you know, mishandled the rod or done something wrong, it definitely could have pulled me over.
He was screaming, he was yelling. I mean, he was pumped up, and he never broke. The kid did an outstanding job fighting that fish, as good as any man I've ever had on my boat, professionals included.
Take your time. You got him now. You got him.
At last, the tired tarpon slows down. Working fast, Captain Mike maneuvers the boat to bring the fish alongside. Robert gives a massive pull. They've got it. The fishermen can't believe its size.
You see something that's over twice as big as what you're expecting, and you don't really even know what to make of it. It's almost weird looking. It's so huge.
But to measure it, they still have to get it safely to the boat's edge. Captain Mike takes charge. He gaffs the tarpon carefully. Done right, it'll keep the fish in place without causing serious harm. Getting it on board's a mission impossible.
God, how are you going to get him in the boat?
Up close at last, it's massive. An incredible 113 centimeters around and more than 2 meters long. Using a standard sport fishing weight formula, Captain Mike estimates the fish at 97.5 kilos. If he's correct, it makes it the largest tarpon ever caught off the coast of Texas.
As we're calculating this thing on the boat, it's just like, you know, oh my gosh, we've got something that's, you know, bigger than anything anyone else has ever caught here.
Releasing the gaff, the mammoth tarpon swims safely away.
He's going.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
To catch a fish of that quality, it truly was. It was Moby Dick.
This is the most impressive fish I'm ever going to catch in my entire lifetime.
Tarpon anglers hope for more record catches, but most recognize this trophy fish may be in trouble. And so is the tarpon's wetland nesting ground. Wetlands are areas where water covers soil or rises close to the soil's surface. In places like Galveston, Texas, rapid development decimates more wetlands each year. Fishermen see the loss firsthand. Even half a century ago, tarpon were abundant.
There was a time where it didn't make any difference because there was so many of them. They were like buffalo, but it ain't like that no more. And if something's not done to protect them, they won't be any.
Across the country, hundreds of wetland fish species are threatened. But efforts by the U.S. Geological Survey and others to conserve wetlands may help. Reflooding, replanting, and rerouting swamp waters could restore a vanishing habitat. For tarpon fishing, catch and release is enforced with strict quotas, restrictions, and limited licensing. Most anglers support this effort, doing their part to save big fish for future generations. In the world of monster fish, they're fabled and feared killers. Massive, armed with whiskers that work like a secret weapon, the Piraiba.
Think of a Volkswagen with gigantic 3-foot-long whiskers coming out of its face.
They're colossal kings of the Amazon. In Brazil, they're known as motherfish. Piraíba are one of the largest catfish on Earth, with record breakers stretching over 3.5 meters long, weighing a scale-busting 200 kilograms. There's no bigger catfish in the Amazon basin. Here, Piraíba rule the deep, feeding with intimidating strength and speed.
Piraíba are dominant predators in these big, deep canals in the larger parts of the Amazon River. In order to be able to handle the currents, they've got to be big, powerful swimmers.
In addition to strong muscle, Piraíba are stealth hunters, armed with a sensory arsenal. 90-centimeter long whiskers covered with taste buds. Piraíba taste buds are so sensitive they work like homing devices, picking up traces of prey in the water, helping Piraíba to hunt blind and grow bigger with each meal.
They'll move in the murky water where other animals who may be depending on vision are at a disadvantage, and the Piraíba doesn't need to be able to see to find its prey.
It all adds up to a whopper fish with a killer advantage. Catching giant Piraíba is an adrenaline rush if the angler's up for the fight.
Anyone who likes a challenge would get a big thrill hooking these brutes of Brazil.
July 2006, Brazil's Amazon River Basin. Pro fisherman Jair Rigotti has an obsession, hooking a giant Piraíba. But Amazon whoppers don't come easy. For 4 days, Jair, his guide, and a friend wait for a bite, with no luck. Jair's about to give up. He decides to drop one last baitfish into one of the narrowest parts of the river, a popular Piraíba hunting ground. Suddenly, Jair feels a strong tug on the line. He knows from experience, it's a giant.
When I felt the fish bite, I said, "It's her! It's her!"
Jair braces himself against the leviathan below, but the fish fights even harder. The fishing reel lets off line in a rush.
Olha que briga! Que corrida! Uma disparada.
It took off like a shot. Line was running out, and we were racing to keep up with the fish, who took out nearly 150 meters of line.
As seen in this video, the powerful Piraíba's so strong, it drags Jair's boat downriver. Jair does his best to hang on.
It was very difficult. The line was running out. I was trying to hold on, but he was pulling the boat, so we had to turn the motor on just to keep up with the fish. It was a very hard fight.
Suddenly, the whopper tries a new strategy. It dives down to the river bottom, hiding among dead trees and branches. The fish won't budge. Dogtooth's fertile feeding grounds are dying off in a dangerous phenomenon called coral bleaching.
Coral bleaching is caused by subtle increases in water temperature that stress the coral and cause it to expel the algae that live in its tissue. And that stresses the animal and usually causes the coral to eventually die.
Around the world, coral reefs are under constant assault, and reef poachers have turned to a dangerous and destructive fishing technique: blasting. Blast fishing uses crude explosives like dynamite to literally blast fish to the surface. Blasting brings in big hauls for struggling fishermen, but it decimates the habitat. Recently, governments have begun rallying to stop dynamite blasting and other damaging methods, bringing hope for the dogtooths and the coral reef's future. Among the world's mightiest monster fish, these apex predators eat their own kind. Colossal cannibals with an even scarier taste. For shallow waters, where humans dare to tread. The lemon shark.
It's a big shark that lives in coastal waters, so it comes in contact with humans quite often.
Tropical lemon sharks reach whopper sizes. Record setters have stretched almost 3.5 meters, weighing nearly a quarter ton. Powerful hunting and feeding instincts help these titans grow huge. And lemons are born to kill. Unlike most ocean dwellers who start life as eggs, a newborn lemon shark begins as a 60-centimeter long eating machine, driven to grow or risk being eaten by bigger sharks, including their own mother. Lemon sharks are such aggressive feeders, they'll cannibalize their own kind.
Any shark, whether it's his mother or not, beginning a few minutes after his birth, is probably a threat to him.
But it's their favored hunting and spawning grounds that bring them face to face with us. Lemons gravitate to shallow shore waters.
Lemon sharks are a coastal species. They move up and down the shoreline, and they love these shallow inshore habitats that are just filled with marine life.
When provoked, lemons fiercely defend their shoreline hunting grounds. For any fisherman who dares to take them on, a lemon shark is a dangerous and formidable foe.
This thing could have definitely eaten half of me. Could have swallowed half of my body with no problem.
March 7, 2006, the Atlantic Ocean off Key West, Florida. Experienced angler Martin Orostegui sets out with his longtime fishing guide, Captain Ralph Delph. Their goal? Land a Leviathan shark. But the two fishermen are committed to more than just a catch. They believe in the art of a safe release. Ralph's designed a unique onboard holding pen called a live well, built directly into the hull of his boat. The special well allows Martin to catch and carry a shark safely to shore while keeping it in the water. Once the sportsman registers his catch, he can release the animal back into the wild.
We love to fish for them, but we release them alive. Coast Guard Regulation Orange.
Martin has hundreds of world records under his belt, but today he wants to up the ante with a bold and risky strategy, using lightweight fly fishing gear to catch big sharks. Few anglers even attempt it.
I fish with light line because I love the challenge.
Martin keeps watch in the 9-meter boat.
Hopefully we'll get a couple of fish come up.
Suddenly, a dark shape shoots through the water. Martin knows from experience it's a shark, and it's headed straight towards him.
The shark was about 300 feet from the boat, and he was swimming very hard towards the front of the boat where I was waiting for him. Okay, here it comes.
Martin has no idea of the size of the beast below. He casts his fly. As the fly hits the water, the shark lunges forward. The angler can't believe his eyes. Oh! It's a gigantic lemon shark. The biggest Martin's ever seen. Grabbing the hook, swimming away at breakneck speed.
The shark started swimming really, really hard because it felt the hook and pulled a lot of line out. So we had to immediately follow the shark.
Martin struggles to keep the enormous predator hooked while Captain Ralph moves the boat for better leverage. But the longer the lemon stays hooked, the more the catch is in danger. In the battle of shark versus fly fishing line, a shark has a major advantage: its skin.
The skin of the shark is like sandpaper. They rub against the monofilament line that you need for fly fishing. Many times what happens is the shark rubs the monofilament line and breaks it.
Martin prays the line will hold.
What do you think? That's good. That's good. Okay.
Man and beast lock in a dead heat for nearly an hour.
It was a very hard fight. The fish swam very, very fast and very hard.
The angler's losing strength fast. He's worried he can't hold the catch much longer. But the whopper shark starts to tire. Martin manages to reel it closer to the boat, where he sees the monster's true size.
This thing could have definitely eaten half of me. The mouth of the shark could have swallowed half of my body with no problem.
Now they've got a dangerous job, getting an agitated shark on board. Working fast, Martin and Captain Ralph lasso the lemon shark's tail.
Okay, hurry!
The beast goes into a frenzy.
The fish swung around 2 times. On the 3rd time, it actually did it very hard and attempted to attack the engine.
With a final struggle, the men get the shark lashed to the boat. But the battle's far from over. It's too big to hoist. Unable to haul the Goliath up alone, the men call a nearby fishing boat for help. But even with assistance, manhandling a shark is high risk.
It's dangerous because we have to grab the shark and pull him up where we are face to face with the animal.
Up, guys, up.
At last, they've got it. The men manage to pull in the lemon shark safely. But time is ticking. With the whopper shark in the boat's live holding well, the men race 32 kilometers back to shore to weigh it safely without causing it harm.
It's coming.
On shore, the stats are staggering. 2¼ meters long. An incredible 175 kilos, a world record, the largest fish caught on a fly fishing rod ever. Martin releases the mammoth record setter back into the ocean. Mission accomplished.
We were able to catch a huge shark that was a world record and then release it alive. Releasing the fish alive was, in my opinion, the greatest of the accomplishments.
But for biologists, studying wild giant fish like the lemon shark is an ongoing challenge. The bigger the fish, the tougher it is to keep the animals safe and healthy in captivity.
With a normal fish, you bring them into the laboratory, you put them in an aquarium, and you can do all sorts of experimentation with them. How do you do that with a 12-foot long fish?
Ironically, the lemon shark's attraction to shallow waters may be one of its biggest conservation assets. Scientists are finding ways to study the lemon shark in its natural habitat. Bahamas Bimini Station is leading the way, practicing the art of shark corralling.
They'll hold them in a big pen, so they're actually in the ocean, but they're sort of isolated and not allowed to get back out into the wild. And inside that sort of semi-captive situation, they're able to do experiments with lemon sharks that are useful for learning about aspects of their physiology and their natural history that they're not able to get from simply making observations of animals in the wild.
It's a critical step toward understanding and protecting some of the most astounding alpha predators on the planet. An air-breathing swamp monster, armored and dangerous. In the world of whoppers, these prehistoric predators get so big they can survive almost anything. The arapaima.
It's this bizarre dinosaur-like long skinny fish that reaches body sizes that sort of really defy belief.
Monster arapaima are native to South America, but in the last century, anglers introduced them to tropical Thailand. Here, with no natural predators, they're eating their fill, growing from tiny to gargantuan, reaching nearly 2½ meters long and weighing over 180 kilos.
And there may not even be in Thailand any other animal that they're competing with that's anywhere near that sort of body size that they achieve.
Arapaima boasts 2 major advantages to getting big. First, they're armor-plated behemoths, protected from predators with a suit of scales made from tough collagen and calcium. And second, this fighting fish breathes air, surfacing every 10 to 20 minutes using an air bladder that works like a lung. In droughts, when other fish die in oxygen-depleted waters, the arapaima can thrive in shallow swamps, breathing air from above. Surviving such extremes helps these monster fish keep growing from season to season.
Arapaima have developed over evolutionary time this sort of dual strategy in respiration where they use their lungs to absorb oxygen, but they use their gills to unload carbon dioxide and to excrete certain kinds of waste.
For anglers, wrestling an arapaima is an extreme test of endurance, the conquest of a career.
It's quite hard to catch in the wild. For most anglers, it certainly is, the dream fish.
October 16th, 2007, Thailand's Krabi province. British fisherman Keith Purton is enjoying a 7-day fishing vacation. He's come to Stuart Gillam's fishing resort, one of Thailand's best places to find megafish. This morning, Keith is up at sunrise, casting bait into the resort's 3.5-hectare lake, joined by seasoned father and son team, Stuart and Sean Gillam.
1 meter.
A few hours brings in some good-sized catches, but Keith has no idea a whopper lies in wait. Like a jolt of electricity, the angler braces himself against a sudden, powerful pull, peeling off meters of line in seconds.
It powered off down the lake that way, and really there wasn't much we could do to stop it.
Underwater, it's a monster arapaima. It's so strong, Keith has to fight his instinct to yank back his reel. If he pulls too hard on the line, it could snap.
Ended up having to follow it down the lake because there was no way that I could try to turn it. It was just going so quickly and so powerfully.
Stop!
As hard as he tries, Keith has met his match. Each time he reels the fish closer to shore, it takes off again for deeper water.
A stalemate here. Oh, no, maybe not.
And it gets worse. 30 minutes into the fight, everything stops.
Standing there. Yeah.
In the middle of the lake, either the line or the fish is stuck in the mud. Keith worries the longer the air-breathing fish stays under, the greater its danger of suffocation.
There's still something on there. Yeah. I think what he's done is gone down behind the back of the plane.
We didn't want to kill the fish by it, entangling itself and getting stuck down there because they do have to come up for air.
Fishing guide Sean Gillam takes charge. He jumps into the lake and heads out to the tangled brush, pulling up the line, hoping to free the fish by hand.
Luckily, as soon as he started giving it a few gentle tugs, the fish decided to move again.
Success. Once again, the giant fish is on the move, swimming fast. Now it's Keith's job to end the showdown. But the exhausted angler's almost at the breaking point. At last, after a 40-minute tug of war, Keith gets the behemoth to shore. It's a flipping, twisting arapaima whopper caught. But there's a danger. The fighting fish's long body is vulnerable to a life-threatening injury.
He's got a big blood vessel runs down his back. If you bend this blood vessel the wrong way, it snaps, he bleeds to death.
Thankfully, experienced resort owner Stuart Gillam and his crew are prepared, standing by with a specially designed net cage that keeps the fish in safe alignment.
Yes! Yes!
There was a big cheer or a big cry of yes. It was quite a relief to see it actually go into the net.
3 men can barely lift it for a fast photo. An estimated 190 centimeters long, 90 centimeters around, and roughly 150 kilos. Stuart gauges the arapaima is larger than any caught on record.
Right, that's it, that's all I'm doing. Okay. Good, thank you guys.
Keith and crew release the giant back to deep water, safe, alive, and ready to grow even bigger.
It's enormous, isn't it? I don't think I've ever touched a fish or seen a fish that big. It's really incredible.
But Keith's arapaima may soon be among the last on Earth. While their introduction to Thailand could turn them into a dangerous invasive species here, the reality is arapaima may become extinct everywhere else.
The biggest two threats to the arapaima populations today are the same thing that threatens so many big fish. Number one, commercial fishing. They're big, meaty animals. You can't blame people for wanting to eat them. There's a lot of dinner on an arapaima. The degradation of the Amazon ecosystem and all the habitats surrounding it, once that habitat's gone, if it goes, there can't possibly be any arapaimas in that habitat.
In such cases of increasingly threatened big fish, biologists may have to intervene to repopulate the species, turning to adopted man-made habitats or creating captive breeding programs in controlled environments.
Arapaima are unusual because they really can be bred in captivity or in relatively close circumstances. For such a big fish, it can happen. And so they really do have the potential for captive breeding to make an important contribution to wild populations.
I think for many anglers, particularly anglers who,
Showdowns with shallow water sharks.
Could have swallowed half of my body with no problem.
Battling air-breathing jungle monsters.
Just enormous, isn't it? I don't think I've ever touched a fish or seen a fish that big.
Reeling titanic tuna with barracuda teeth.
They can cut through the skin and even through the backbone.
That's a fat one, boy!
And wrestling powerful titans of the deep.
It truly was. It was Moby Dick.
For science, sport, and food, it's the most extreme encounters in our eternal quest for hooked monster fish. Colossal underwater Goliath. They grow to fantastic size and swim with astounding speed. When these leviathans move in, other fish move away. And just when we think we've seen the biggest there is, another monster fish blows it out of the water. To those who encounter them face to face, they are extraordinary, the ultimate challenges of man versus beast.
There's 30,000 species out there in the world, if you take all of them combined. And the biggest ones are really the ones that really grab your imagination. If you're a little bit intimidated because they're bigger than you, and any animal that's bigger than you that's wild is something to be taken seriously.
Among the world's wildest whoppers, these tough predators combine traits of 3 monster species into one, the dogtooth tuna. Born with bodies like tuna, they have mouths like barracuda and can kill like sharks.
Just imagine the body of a yellowfin tuna with the head of a barracuda stuck on the front end. It's a pretty weird combination to have that head stuck on the body of that super athlete.
One asset to growing huge, these reef-dwelling behemoths have jaws out of a horror movie. Despite their strong tuna resemblance, dogtooth are actually fierce bonitos. Unlike most tuna who have smaller sized teeth, dogtooth sport a mouthful of more than 50 serrated weapons. They even have additional teeth on the surface of their tongues. Dogtooth slice into prey like sharks.
It's got big gnarly teeth coming out of its mouth, and so it's really an impressive sight to see one of these guys cruising the edge of a reef. They can pierce right through the skin of its prey and then cut through the skin and even through the backbone of that prey.
And dogtooth continue to break the typical tuna mold. Unlike their tuna cousins, dogtooth are unable to keep their body temperatures warmer than the water around them. As a result, they keep to tropical regions. But these cold-blooded fish are no pushovers. Unlike many tuna who swim in protective schools and avoid apex predators, these lone hunters will actually swim with sharks.
They're able to move incredibly fast when they need to. And so they sort of are able to feed a niche that's just a little bit different from the ones that reef sharks use.
Experienced anglers know dogtooth may be easy to meet in shallow waters, but their super size and terrorizing teeth make them one of the toughest fish to conquer.
The dogtooth fights deep and hard. You know, it's a completely different style of fishing, physically more demanding.
October 25, 2007, the Coral Sea near Australia. New Zealand boat builder Brian Harkin is on a 4-day expedition testing out a new advanced technology fishing boat. It's his first ever mission hunting dogtooth tuna. Joining Brian are some fishing buddies and a favorite guide, New Zealand fishing celebrity Matt Watson, who's filming the trip for a local broadcast.
Sweet egg!
They're planning to fish with some high-tech help below decks. Submersible video cameras drag behind the boat, attached by an umbilical cable, feeding images to onboard monitors. The cameras signal when a monster's approaching.
Not only can we catch some big dogtooth tuna on rod and reel, but we can catch them on film.
Everyone keeps close watch. But no amount of technology guarantees a whopper catch. The crew hatches a strategy. They head directly to some coral reefs where dogtooth swarm. The goal is to drop bait at the reef's edge and move out into deeper water, luring the doggies away from the reef's protective cover. But after 3 frustrating days, they've yet to land a Goliath. Just before giving up, they head to an area crowded with birds, sure sign of prey swimming underneath. Brian takes a last try, hoping for a monster.
There was a lot of anticipation passing through that reef, just the bird life, knowing that the fish were there. It was on.
Woohoo! Suddenly, there's a yell from Matt. Cameras show 2 giant dogtooth rocketing toward the bait, cutting through the water like torpedoes.
Yeah, on the left, a big one on the left. Okay, coming on the right and on the left. Okay, there's still a fish on the right.
They've got a big tail, and when they dig it in, it's like a big propeller. It just develops a lot of thrust.
The water erupts as the 2 frenzied fish chomp onto the bait.
He's on the right. Yeah, he's got it. He's got it. Oh!
They take off at a sprint. Brian takes hold of one rod while another angler grabs the second. The 2 men stand almost side by side. Brian's got to keep his line taut, keeping the fish from shaking the hook. But it's risky, too tight, and the line could snap.
Oh, here we go again. Oh.
Suddenly, Brian's massive dogtooth takes off at a dead sprint, almost pulling him overboard. At the same moment, the other angler's line goes slack. With a pull, he reels in half a fish.
Known as the shortened variety dogtooth tuna. It's looked like it would have been a fairly nice fish. You would have been looking at about 30 kilo there, Rob. But instead you got one about 20 kilo.
The anglers aren't the only ones who want a whopper. Below the water, they're battling hungry sharks.
The shark's eating the doggy.
After seeing Robbie's fish come up eaten by a shark, I was, quite anxious about my fish not getting sharked.
Brian's exhausted and losing strength. But he's determined to defeat the dogtooth before the shark beats him to it. With a back-breaking pull, Brian gets the monster fish to the boat at last.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Let it go up here too, mate. No problem. In the mouth there, mate. Sweet, got him. Yeah. Woohoo! Woohoo! That's a fat one, boy.
It's a Goliath.
That's a fat sucker, man. That's a beast.
Brian catches his breath as the crew struggles to haul the mammoth beast on board. Even these seasoned pros are amazed. Matt and crew estimate the dogtooth at over 1.5 meters long and almost 70 kilos.
That is a beast. Look at that. Oh, go on, give it a kiss, Brian. Give it a kiss. Oh, there you go.
But the battle isn't over. Wasting no time, the team wants to get the dogtooth back in the water for a safe release. But there's a problem. The fish's swim bladder, an air-filled internal organ that regulates buoyancy, is overinflated. During the struggle to bring the fish to the surface, the sharp drop in pressure made the bladder expand. Now, with so much trapped oxygen, the dogtooth can't submerge. There's only one solution: emergency surgery. Matt hauls the fish back on board.
Could be a problem with his swim bladder, and just in a
The fossil record of tarpons goes back a long way. We think we have fossils of tarpons that are 100 million years old.
For millennia, tarpon growth has come down to survival of the fittest. Females spawn millions of eggs each year. Only a fraction make it to adulthood. But those super specimens that do survive are built to last. Living for 50 years or more. Feeding and growing to mammoth proportions with few natural enemies.
It's always body size as your ticket to protection. Being big allows them to escape the threats of predators, and it lets them move into the open water where they can hunt for bigger prey.
One boost to their big size: the tarpon is a night stalker, born with nature's answer to infrared technology. This unusual ability is thanks to enormous eyes that work like highly sensitive light absorbers. Giant lenses capture every luminescent particle in the water, maximizing reflections, isolating moving shapes, helping tarpon home in on prey. In deep waters, it's a huge seeing and stalking advantage, allowing tarpon to snag fish other predators miss, ambushing a meal with ease. To fishermen, tarpon are extraordinary prize fighters, one of the ocean's toughest opponents.
Sweet, yeah, look at that.
It carries a worldwide reputation of the king of all sport fish. They're so incredible, fighting fish.
August 9th, 1992, the Gulf of Mexico near Galveston, Texas. Teenage angler Robert Lord Jr. is out with an afternoon fishing expedition. Their guide, Captain Mike Williams, one of the Gulf's most experienced tarpon fishermen.
He knows the fish really well. He knows their patterns. He's a tarpon genius.
The boat drifts offshore for 2 hours under the blistering Texas sun. Waiting for a bite, Robert works to remove a messy tangle from a fishing reel. Suddenly, a shimmering underwater surge shoots past the boat. It's huge.
I thought this was, Jaws or something. In my 14-year-old brain, I was thinking, okay, this was a gigantic white flash. It seemed like it was as big as the boat. It must be a great white shark.
Hey, that's a big fish right there.
Feeling a tug, Robert races to untangle the line.
Got my fingers all intertwined in the fishing line, and if it starts pulling line off, it could have ripped off a finger.
But before he gets far, the fish bites hard into the hook and tears off.
Oh man, I got one!
Just in time, Robert manages to free his hand.
Travel internationally. The arapaima must be the prize species that most anglers aspire to.
Ghostly, shimmering, powerful. The tarpon. Among the world's mammoth monster fish, these ocean hunters have a killer asset: night vision.
Big and silvery. There's just really nothing like it. Big silver scales on the side of the animal with a huge eye up in the head.
Called the Silver King, This shiny Atlantic beast can reach almost 2.5 meters long and weigh over 150 kilos. Tarpon are so well adapted to grow and thrive, they remain relatively unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs.